Do you get your annual physical, or maybe one every other year? What if I told you that the very checkups you've come to rely on might actually be slowly chipping away at your life? It might sound unbelievable, but it's a reality for many, especially after the age of 70. Many of these tests are not shields protecting your health, but rather a burden that lowers your quality of life, causing unnecessary anxiety, pointless treatments, and financial strain. There's a truth you need to know right now. A study from a prestigious medical school, call it the Mayo Clinic of the West, shows that 68% of seniors over 70 are getting tests they simply don't need, leading to inaccurate diagnosis and inappropriate care. Even more shocking, some tests that are beneficial for younger folks can actually be harmful to older adults. That more is better mentality we've had about healthcare is now a dangerous misconception. After this, you'll know which tests you absolutely need and which ones you should confidently decline. You'll learn how to free up your time and money from unnecessary exams and meds, and focus your energy where it truly matters. Investing in your genuine health and happiness, this could change your life completely. Desert Willow Wisdom will be your trusted partner, a reliable source of insights that go beyond simple info and can change your life. I'm confident that today's story will mark an important turning point in your life. Make yourself comfortable, and let's get started. If you appreciate this story, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel last weekend. I took my dad, who's 83, to the local clinic. His routine checkup showed some slightly off numbers, so they recommended further tests, but as the doctor explained it, I realized that these tests might not be all that useful for someone his age. I carefully asked, "Doctor, are all these tests really necessary?" He quietly nodded and said, "Honestly, the effectiveness of these tests changes with age. We need to be more selective and only order what's truly needed." That really made me think, how many tests have we blindly accepted only to worry about the results and even undergo unnecessary treatments? Especially after 70, the purpose of health checkups shifts into a whole different dimension. The standard protocols are usually designed for all age groups, creating a system that lumps everyone together. The normal physiological parameters of someone in their 40s won't be the same for someone in their 80s. But we're all being measured with the same yardstick. Our parents' generation firmly believes more tests are always better. But it's time for us to understand that this is a huge misconception. Let me tell you about my friend Hank Miller. At 76, his comprehensive exam revealed a tiny nodule in his lung. For the next 6 months, he was consumed by anxiety and stress during repeated tests and waiting periods. He eventually received a final diagnosis of no problem, but he said, "Those 6 months I thought about dying every single day, and all for nothing. Unnecessary tests can damage your mind more quickly than your body. It's time for you to be able to decide which screenings are for you and which to avoid. Let today mark that important starting point." The term health checkup has become so familiar to us, but how deeply do we really understand what it means? These tests, which we take without questioning because we believe they are for our health, sometimes hurt our bodies and minds. And it's time to start thinking about what we really need to concentrate on for our genuine well-being. This second story is so shocking that you won't believe it just because there are a lot of tests. That doesn't mean that it's good for your health. In some cases, it can be very harmful. I felt this with all my heart thanks to the experience of my Aunt Lucy, who is 72. She was extremely concerned about her health. She got a comprehensive exam every year without fail, and she faithfully followed all procedures, so she was known as a model patient. But one day, a slight abnormality was found in a blood test that she had. As usual, the hospital recommended more tests, and she went to various hospitals to get precise exams out of anxiety. In the end, there was no problem, but the process wasn't smooth. She had an unnecessary biopsy, and the area of the biopsy became infected. She received powerful antibiotics to treat the infection, but those antibiotics destroyed her digestive systems. Balance of microorganisms, she ended up suffering from digestive problems for more than 6 months. Her words of the exam made me sick. Still ring in my head in medical circles, these needless diagnoses and treatments are called overdiagnosis and overtreatment, and the risk increases as you age. There are good reasons for this. First, the body's parameters change. With age, aging is a natural physiological change, and it's normal for certain numbers to be different from when you were younger. However, most screening standards are based on young adults. so it's difficult to apply them to the elderly. For example, research has shown that slightly high cholesterol levels actually improve survival in people over 70, yet we continue to label them as sick under the name of normal range. Second, the tests themselves come with risks. Tests such as colonoscopies also become more dangerous as you get older. The risk of serious complications such as intestinal perforation is higher, and studies have shown that the risk is 4 times higher in people in their 80s than in people in their 40s. We shouldn't overlook the fact that what we thought were simple tests can have a huge impact on an aging body. The third is the side effects of medication. My mother was prescribed statins because her cholesterol level was slightly above the normal range in a health checkup. She started taking them without question at first, but she began to experience muscle pain not long after, and even the simple movements became painful. It turned out that that level wasn't a problem for people her age. Eventually, her body felt comfortable again after she stopped taking the medicine. The fourth is the economic problem, which we often overlook: additional medical examinations. Medications and hospital visits are accompanied by costs that aren't light. One of my friends spent all of the money he had planned to use for a year-long trip abroad on unnecessary exams and treatments. It was supposed to be for his health, but it took away from his life. And finally, the most fundamental and important problem is psychological stress, the anxiety of waiting for test results, the fear that comes when even a single number is out of range, and the concern about whether there is a disease. These tensions weaken the body's immunity and actually damage health. When the mind gets sick, the body collapses with it. This anxiety can be a heavier and more devastating pain than any treatment. So what tests are really necessary in life after the age of 70? I'm not saying you should stop getting all tests. Rather, true prevention and recovery is about carefully selecting only the tests that your body really needs and finding the health standards that are right for you. If you can avoid wasting time on unnecessary tests and focus that energy on improving your quality of life, then that's the key to smart senior health management. Right as you age, your body quietly but surely undergoes changes. To deal with these changes wisely, it's important to listen to your body and carefully examine the parts that need care. But you can't protect your health by blindly getting all the tests. The really important thing is to know which tests you need and stick to them. The 5 tests that I'm about to tell you are essential for maintaining your health during old age. The first is measuring blood pressure. High blood pressure silently sneaks up on you with no symptoms and can suddenly lead to strokes or heart attacks. That's why I measure my father's blood pressure every morning and record it. This habit, which at first seemed like a chore, has now become an important ritual that opens the day. My father also says, when I measure my blood pressure in the morning, I can get a sense of what condition my body is in just by looking at the numbers. And that's where my day starts. The second is a diabetes test. Diabetes can cause various complications in the body, and it's a major disease that significantly lowers the quality of life in old age. But thankfully, it can be sufficiently managed with medicine and lifestyle changes if detected early. My neighbor, Mr. Smith, was diagnosed with diabetes at the age of 75 and walked for 30 minutes every morning. As a result, his blood sugar returned to normal without medication in less than a year. What he said was memorable: since I started walking, I've been sleeping better and feeling better. In fact, my diabetes was the opportunity to turn my life around. The third is a bone density test. The risk of osteoporosis rises sharply, especially for women who have gone through menopause. If the bones become weak, they can break easily, even from minor impacts, which can lead to long-term bed rest or even life-threatening conditions. My mother was diagnosed with osteoporosis at the age of 67, and since then she has been taking calcium and vitamin D supplements now. At the age of 78, she still walks straight and climbs stairs without any problems. Her consistency has become a pillar of health. The fourth is hearing and vision tests. It's natural for the sensory organs to gradually weaken as you age. But if you neglect these changes, you'll be cut off from the outside world, which can lead to isolation and depression and even cognitive decline. My uncle's hearing deteriorated, but at first he hesitated to wear a hearing aid. He said, "I'm fine, I can still hear, it's just annoying." But he started talking less with his family, and a dark look hung over his face. Eventually, he wore a hearing aid, and the smile returned to his face. And the number of words he said started to come back one by one. The fifth is a depression screening test. Feelings of depression in old age are often overlooked as just a mood swing. My mother was up all night and suffered from insomnia after my father passed away, and her motivation noticeably declined. At first, my family thought she was just getting old, but after being accurately diagnosed with a depression screening test and receiving counseling and treatment, her eyes cleared up again. At first, I never imagined I had depression. I just thought it was because I was getting old. But after treatment, the world started to color again. These 5 tests aren't just for finding diseases. What's more important is that they are preparations to live the second half of your life more comfortably and richly. You don't need to get all the tests, but don't take these essential tests lightly. Health checkups shouldn't be applied equally to everyone based on a single standard. A personalized plan is needed that takes into account the person's physical condition, family history, and lifestyle. I still remember what Mr. Johnson, whom I met before, said to me when he was 78 years old. My parents both died of heart disease, so I make sure to get those tests, but I don't get cancer screenings anymore. I know best what my body can handle in this way. To grow old in the best way, we must learn to choose more accurately rather than getting rid of more things. Isn't that the wisdom of keeping real health? One of the important factors is family. If someone in your immediate family, parents or siblings, has suffered from a specific disease, you need to take a deeper and more careful approach to testing for that disease rather than just a routine checkup. In my case, there was someone in my family who had colon cancer, so I get colonoscopies regularly. On the other hand, I discussed other types of cancer screenings thoroughly with my doctor and decided whether they were necessary and adjusted them because I realized that getting all the tests isn't necessarily good. I realized that it was a wiser way to spend my time and energy to focus on diseases that could be a bigger risk to me. Lifestyle is also an essential part of health. For example, if you've been smoking your whole life, you shouldn't leave out lung-related exams. Also, if you live a life where you're often outdoors and exposed to a lot of sunlight, you should consider a skin cancer screening. My father worked as a carpenter for 40 years. He used his lungs for a long time in a dusty environment. So he still gets lung exams because the body remembers. And one of the things we often miss is the medication we're currently taking. Some medicines can put a strain on the liver or kidneys, so regular function tests should be done along with them. My aunt has been taking arthritis medication for a long time, so she gets liver function tests every 6 months without fail. What's just as important as taking medicine regularly is knowing what effect that medicine is having on your body. In the end, you should know your body best. So I think a trusted partnership with medical staff is more important than anything. Whenever I take my parents to the hospital, I always prepare a list of questions in advance. Is this test really necessary? What are the possible risks of getting the test? Is this result important enough to change the course of treatment? What are the risks of skipping this test at this age? If you have these questions organized in advance, you can make clear decisions instead of vague anxiety. Most doctors try to share enough information so that patients can know more and make choices just as important as health checkups is organizing and remembering the results. I keep a separate health notebook for my parents and carefully write down all of their test results, medications they're taking, special notes, etc. It's a big help when consulting at the hospital. And as you get older, your memory isn't what it used to be. So it's really valuable to have a habit of organizing everything. So you can see at a glance when you got which test and what the results were. But today I want to talk about something more essential than health checkups themselves: daily life. How you live each day. These small repetitions are sometimes more powerful than a doctor's prescription. You may find it hard to believe. But research has shown that after the age of 70, everyday health habits have a greater impact on your quality of life than regular checkups. I'm thinking of my neighbor, Mr. Williams, at the age of 92. He walks around the park 3 times every morning, rain or shine. He never misses a day. One day he told me, "Medicine is good, but my legs are better medicine." Since I made walking a part of my life, I haven't been to the hospital much. When I heard that, I really felt deep down that exercise, especially as you get older, is so important that I can't put it into words. Of course, not everyone can move in the same way, If it's difficult to move your muscles or joints, low-impact exercises like swimming or indoor cycling are a good alternative. My mother was diagnosed with arthritis at the age of 73, but she exercises regularly in the water every morning. Finding a method that works for you is in the end the most consistent and safest way to keep healthy. Right at first, I was even afraid to move my body. I got tense about even the slightest movement because I didn't know when or how severely the pain would come. But over time, I realized that staying still actually made the pain worse. As I slowly got the courage to move my body, the pain gradually lessened and exercise became a part of my daily life. The importance of lifestyle habits becomes more clear as time goes by. In particular, as you get older, protein intake is something you can't take lightly. As you get older, muscle mass naturally decreases, so it's essential to supplement protein to maintain it. But the reality is not that simple. Many elderly people have trouble eating protein because their teeth are weak and their digestive functions aren't the same as before. My mother also has a hard time chewing tough foods like meat, so I try to include soft, easily digestible foods like tofu, eggs, and fish in her diet. I also often use ingredients that are rich in vegetable protein like beans. I never knew there were so many diverse and tasty dishes you could make with tofu. Now she can have a satisfying meal without particularly seeking meat. Hydration is the same way as you get older. Even the sensation of being thirsty becomes vague, so you can easily become dehydrated. That's why I set an alarm for my father to drink water at set times. At first, he said it was annoying, but now he naturally drinks water, and thanks to that, his skin is less dry, and his constipation has decreased a lot. It's a small change, but the effect is really big. You can't ignore the role of sleep in maintaining health. In particular, many elderly people have a hard time falling asleep at night, and creating a stable evening routine can be a big help every night at 8 p.m. My mother drinks a glass of warm milk, does light stretching, and then goes to bed listening to quiet music. I'm so grateful that I can fall asleep without medicine at this age. My evening routine is better than medicine. These words are full of gratitude for the time she fought with insomnia for so long and her current peace. Most of all, humans are social beings. No matter how well you take care of your health, if you're consumed by loneliness, a sickness of the mind will soon affect your body. In fact, research has shown that social isolation is as harmful to your health as smoking. My mother joined the local choir at the age of 77. At first, she hesitated, but she gained new vitality as she sang with new friends and prepared for performances. Singing makes me feel young again. It's great to laugh together, make mistakes sometimes, and still learn from each other and share joy. I saw my mother's second youth in that laughter. Looking back on all these stories, health management after the age of 70 shouldn't just be about avoiding disease. We realize that it requires an integrated approach that encompasses not only physical health, but also mental stability and social connections. A good example is the wellness program I saw at a retirement home. The person in charge there said that every morning, as soon as the participants wake up, they have them write down their mood energy level, pain level, and sleep quality from the night before in a simple diary format. Thanks to that, they became much more sensitive to their own physical condition and didn't miss even small changes. I tried this method with my parents too. At first, my father laughed and said, "I'm not a student. Why would I keep a diary?" But after a few weeks, he was the one reaching for the pen. First, I understand what days I don't sleep well. It was the days I drank coffee that were the problem. As he was able to understand his body and connect it to his lifestyle patterns, my father became more confident in taking care of his own health. In this way, small but consistent practices have great significance in old age when you need to look at yourself more closely than at any other time in your life. Whether it's the smallest movement, a shaky cup, or a single line in a diary. I tossed and turned every time I watched TV late or drank caffeine. After having those uncomfortable nights, I finally started to listen to the subtle signals my body was sending me. Surprisingly, each of these subtle realizations told me more than an expensive health checkup. I realized how valuable the habit of focusing on my own body and mind was. You can't ignore the health of your mind as well as your body in today's busy and complex world. Managing stress is the key to real health management. One of my friends started meditating at the age of 76. At first, he said it was hard to even close his eyes and sit still. 5 minutes was too long. All sorts of thoughts were racing through my head, so I couldn't concentrate at all. That person who said that now meditates for 20 minutes a day. After I calm my mind, my body stabilizes too, and my blood pressure has noticeably improved. He has regained peace in that unique time and is now bringing stability to his body. With peace of mind, prevention-focused health management can't be left out either. No matter how healthy you look, danger can always come quietly. So everything from checking your home carefully to prevent falls to getting appropriate vaccinations for diseases like the flu, pneumonia, and shingles, and taking care of your teeth and gums makes old age much safer and more comfortable at my house. We put non-slip mats in the bathroom for my parents and installed sturdy handrails on the walls. We also changed the lighting to soft, bright colors. Now I'm convinced by experience that these small changes can prevent big accidents. And more than anything, one of the secrets to living a long life is to have a purpose in life. It's not just about breathing and enduring the day, but knowing for yourself what you're living for. My mother also found that meaning in her life. At the age of 73, she started volunteering to read books to children at a local elementary school. That work brought new vitality to my mother. I'm so happy when the kids listen to my stories and react. I can feel that I'm still needed by someone. Those words were full of unutterable reward and self-esteem. Maybe that activity is the secret to longevity, giving you more strength than any health supplement. So what is the key point of this long story we shared today? It's not that health checkups become meaningless as you enter old age, but rather that their meaning changes fundamentally. If it was most important to detect diseases early and treat them quickly when you were young, what kind of life you live becomes more important than how long you live as you enter the second half of your life. My friend Mr. Peterson's story is a prime example of that. One day at the age of 88, an abnormality was found in his colon cancer screening result, and the medical staff recommended colon resection surgery. However, after deeply considering his reality and life priorities, Mr. Peterson decided to focus on relieving his symptoms instead of surgery. I don't want to spend my remaining time in a hospital bed rather than enduring a long recovery period. I want to live doing what I can do now. To be honest, I was shocked when I first heard that, but over time I came to understand his decision. He managed his illness well for the next 2 years, spent more time with his grandchildren, and went on a trip to Seattle, something he had dreamed of his whole life. He completed the last chapter of his life in his own way, shining brightly instead of painful treatment. In the end, he showed us in life that the true meaning of health is not simply about extending life, but about keeping the power to continue doing the things you love. My mother says, to me, health is the strength to hold my grandchildren, the joy of tending my garden, and the leisure to laugh over a cup of coffee with an old friend. Those words are full of affection for life. And the true meaning of health, yes, isn't that the health we should be pursuing. I sincerely hope that today's story has planted a new perspective in your hearts. I hope you'll have the wisdom to focus on what's truly precious in your life at this moment, rather than spending time, money, and energy on unnecessary tests or treatments.